Fortnite Chapter 7 is here, and Zero Build has shifted in a way that requires an updated approach. In this video, we're going to break down 10 structured tips that guide you from the start of your match all the way till the final moments. Let's begin with the very first tip. The first tip is choosing the right landing spot. Your game starts the moment you jump out of the bus or ride the wave, and most people don't realize how much their landing spot controls the entire match. You want to land somewhere that gives you height or quick access to elevation, because Zero Build is all about angles. Even a small rooftop or ridge can completely change your opening fight. And you also want a place to land where you can loot fast. I'm talking seconds and not minutes. If it takes forever to find a gun, shield, or mobility, you're already behind. And finally, you need a landing spot that actually lets you rotate out safely. A lot of players land in highly populated locations that trap them. If you have access to zip lines or cars or even high terrain, these are all great methods to escape. If your drop checks those 3 boxes, you're setting yourself up for a much easier mid-game. Now, after you land, your goal is simple: win that first fight as fast as possible. Zero Build does not reward players who sit in a building and loot every corner and wait for the action to come to them. You want to grab a weapon and immediately find the closest opponent and take them out before the other players show up. If your spawn fights last more than 30 seconds, you're almost guaranteed to get third-partied or forced into a bad rotation. The players who win consistently aren't the ones who loot the most. They're the players who finish early and move on while everyone else is still scrambling. Now that you won off spawn quickly, it's time to go over building a true Zero Build loadout. Your loadout this season needs shape and purpose, just like any other season. Zero Build isn't like normal modes. You can't build your way out of bad weapon choices. You need something that can beam players at range, because most fights start before you even reach close distances. This would typically be the Enforcer AR or the Deadeye AR this season. Now, you need a weapon to clean up your fights, so a shotgun or even the dual micro SMGs this season will go a long way cleaning up the last bit of damage on your enemies. After that, you need mobility, because someone will eventually push you or force you out of cover. We have shockwaves, the wingsuit, or even Kill Bill's mythic blade. And because you cannot build, porta bunkers are very useful. We also have shield bubbles, but it's always preferred to have porta bunkers for absolute cover. And finally, you need a shielding item, not 2 different types of heals. These fights happen so fast this season that carrying double heals usually does more harm than good. You want 1 slot to survive and not 2. After your overshield is cracked, the next thing to be taken from you is your regular shield. Once you have built your ideal Zero Build loadout, the next thing to go over is movement, which is the real skill gap for Zero Build. Aim matters, but movement is where Zero Build players actually separate themselves. The people who win most aren't just good shooters. They're consistently repositioning, slide peeking around corners, mantling at the perfect moment, sprinting into cover, and breaking enemy aim by changing their elevation just slightly. You want to develop the habit of moving from cover to cover instead of running across open fields. Rocks, trees, or cars. Anything that blocks someone's line of sight should be your best friend. The #1 rule of Zero Build is simple: don't cross open ground unless you have mobility ready to get you out. That's where most players lose the game without even realizing it. Now, the reason you're potentially losing fights, which is not talked about enough, is because you're not mastering your overshield timing. Overshield is basically your extra life in Zero Build, and your timing with it will make or break fights. You should never peek right after taking damage. Doing that means you're fighting with 50 less HP while the enemy is at full strength. Instead, you want to wait a moment and let your overshield come back, and then take a smarter angle. So many players lose fights simply because they re-peak too soon. Being cognizant of your overshield regenerating and having the patience here will simply give you more wins in gunfights, as opposed to just raw aiming and 50-50ing it. We're now going to talk about smarter mid-game rotations. Mid-game is where most people throw away their wins. The safest way to rotate this season is by staying on the edges of zone, not going through the middle of it. When you rotate the edge, you keep the action in front of you instead of having teams on every side, which is why it's more important to stay on the edge of the zones, because then you're way less likely to get focused by multiple players at once. Rotating through the center of the zone is basically asking to go back to the lobby, because it exposes you to too many angles at the same time. Now, let's talk about mastering third-partying timing, which is a great topic to discuss, because this is the reason why most people lose their fights. Let's not kid ourselves, everybody does it, but almost nobody does it right. Third partying this season, just like any other season, is about timing and knowing exactly when to jump in so you steal the fight without becoming the next victim. When you hear a fight happening nearby, don't just sprint straight toward it. Stop for a second and listen. You want to hear the rhythm of the fight, the crack of shields, footsteps, reloads. Watching from a distance is very important as well, because while you're watching from a distance, you could see whether it's a close quarters fight or if these two teams are engaging from a distance. One of the best times to engage is when you recognize either one player is cracked or knocked. But the trick here is to not engage the solo. You engage the duo, because the solo already has a disadvantage. So if you engage the players that don't have a teammate knocked, this gives you the ultimate competitive edge to wipe out all remaining parties. Good third partying is all about distance and timing. You want to pull up right when both players are weak, or when one is healing, or when they're running in a straight line trying to reset. That's when you get the easiest beams of your life. And the best part about this is that you don't even need to push all the way in. A lot of third-party kills happen from mid-range. On the flip side, you also need to understand how to avoid being third-partied yourself. If you finish a fight and instantly start looting in the open, chances are you're likely dead. The second you win a fight, you should assume someone else heard it. Reset behind cover, reload everything, heal up, and only then grab the loot. Playing cautiously for about 5 seconds after winning a fight will save you more games than you think. If you can learn to third-party smart and avoid getting third-partied in return, you'll start winning mid-game fights without taking unnecessary damage, and that sets you up for a much easier endgame every single match. Now, positioning beats aim every time. You don't need insane aim to win in zero build. What you need is better positioning. Height is always stronger than the ground. Head glitches are always stronger than open fields. Cover that hides most of your body is always stronger than standing in the open. If you can force your enemy to fight you from a bad angle, you will win before the fight even starts. Good positioning makes your aim feel better because you're simply taking smarter fights. This occurs the most especially in endgame, which means you need to have endgame patience. When you're in a top 10, everything changes. The players who panic or shoot too early or who try to push every fight are usually the first ones to get sent back to the lobby. Endgame is about patience. If you hold your angle and you watch your surroundings and wait for someone to make a mistake, maybe they leave cover, maybe they rotate too early, or maybe even they reload in the open, that's when you strike. Being patient in endgame wins far more games than being aggressive at the wrong time, which ties into the final tip of avoiding late game chokes. The things that lose late game fights are almost always avoidable. Players peek too early, push with no cover, use mobility when it's already too late, reload at the wrong time, or take a fight between two other teams. In endgame, your goal is survival, not kill count. Let other players grief each other first. Let them take the risky fights, and then that's when you step in. Take the winning position and finish the last player on your own terms. If this video was helpful for you, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe, and let me know which topic you want me to discuss for chapter 7. I'll see you guys in the next one. Take it easy.